Dzień dobry from the beautiful city of Warsaw, and today is a really nice day. It's sunny, it's warm, it's actually one of the warmer days that it has been in the last couple of weeks or so, and I think the weather is definitely improving. Things are getting just nicer, the grass is becoming greener, the parks are going to be soon full of people. And right now I'm wandering in a really cool neighborhood. Like, take a look at this development here. There's tons of them here. This is Żoliborz, or Old Żoliborz, or maybe New Żoliborz. But you have beautiful kind of development with these long big balconies that I love so much, and very, very modern. You have this first floor with restaurants and shops. You have the obligatory żabka there, which is awesome. What would we do without that żabka? And I just had lunch with a very interesting person. He is originally from New York, but has been living here in Warsaw for more than 20 years. And so not only does he know New York fairly well, and we can kind of connect on those levels, but just the fact that he had been living here in Poland for more than 20 years gives him a unique perspective of not just living in Poland, not just kind of what Poland is like right now, but also how it was, 5, 10, 15, or even 20 years ago. And so he told me a lot of interesting things that really made me realize just how far Poland had come, how much it had developed in the mere 5 years ago, how things are rapidly changing. And that's kind of what I want to talk about today. So today I'm going to be talking to you guys about how I view Poland as kind of the perfect balance between kind of the Western values, so things like New York City, things like Western Europe, US, and also some of the Eastern values, right? So things that are close to my heart, the Eastern values that I find important. And Poland has a really kind of a really nice balance of both, right? Because we are in Central Europe, and so we are, this is a westernized country, but there are also some elements that are important to me, and probably important to you as well, as you will see in today's video, that are more kind of Eastern values, like Eastern Europe in that respect. Now take a look at this area. Beautiful, right? Beautiful green grass. You have, people just relaxing, walking their dogs. You have beautiful developments, beautiful houses everywhere. I've never been here before. And incidentally, I just passed it by on accident, just walking around, saw it on Google Maps, decided to check it out. And I mean, look at this. This is gorgeous, right? No trash, everything is clean, the buildings are immaculate, all right? Really, really well taken care of. And we are not in the center, right? We're not far from the center, but we are not in the center, and we are not, I don't think this is like a super rich neighborhood. But, to me it seems like your average kind of, the normal kind of neighborhood here in Warsaw. And you have like a cool, look at that house over there, that with the gate and all that, crazy. And it's gorgeous, right? And I can keep going, right? This is not just one area. I can turn to the left, I can turn right, and there's gonna be something nice over there, something nice here. And I believe this is still Żoliborz. And if I come up to the building, we can see that it says there Stary Żoliborz, which means Old Żoliborz. Beautiful area. I wouldn't mind living in one of these apartments with the balcony view of this gorgeous park. Just amazing. Now I want to begin by talking about the West. The West is important, right? And what I mean by the West, I'm talking about countries where people want to immigrate. So like Western Europe, Scandinavia, but especially like a city like New York, right? Which is kind of this, I could even say, an epitome of the West, right? New York is this very, very ambitious place. It's kind of this in-your-face city. And New York is also where I grew up. I went to elementary school there, I went to high school there, I went to college there. This is a city where I spent a big chunk of my life. And I understand New York City very, very well. And that is why this conversation that I had with this guy just now, we were able to connect on so many levels because he also grew up in New York. Now, New York is a great place. New York is a fantastic place. But one thing that we touched upon just now is that I asked him, and he asked me, I think he asked me first, is that, do I miss something about New York? And I thought about it, and I really can't think of anything. Like, I love New York, God bless New York, I love New York, I love what it stands for, but I don't miss anything about it, right? I do not want to go back, and I can probably safely say that I will probably never want to live there again. Well, never say never. We should never do that. But at this point, I am getting confident in terms of what I like and what I want. And New York is probably not a city I would want to live again because I made various realizations when I was living there. And then I asked him the same thing, and he had the same reaction. He thought about it. He kind of took some time. And he also had the same reaction. He basically told me that, I feel the same way. I've done it. He worked in finance. I worked in a different area. He done it. He loved it. There's lots of great restaurants. It's crazy. It's a beautiful city. I think everybody in the world should visit New York at least once. And then they should decide if it's for them or not for them. And ultimately, his conclusion was the same as mine, is that I don't really miss anything about New York that I don't have here. And as crazy as that sounds, because New York is an amazing city. We're gonna go to that park down there. I'm in the mood for some parks today instead of admiring balconies like I always do. So we're gonna go straight there. We're gonna take a look at what we have down there. Another thing I really like about Poland is these things. These things are awesome. And it's funny, in Ukraine, in Kiev, they started to put those things to block cars from entering and parking. But unfortunately, they're of such low quality that people actually started pulling them out of the ground so they can park like they used to. And that really annoyed me. But, that's what Eastern Europe is. It's a little bit different. The rules are a little bit different. People behave a little bit different than in the rest of the world. And this is a decent park here too. There's some construction and whatnot happening there, some further development. But on this side you have a beautiful park, and it's a big park. There's lots of it, from what I understand, straight ahead where we are going right now. But a city like New York also has a dark side, right? There are pros and cons to everything. And one thing about New York, and for me, really, New York is like a proxy for the West, right? It's an extreme example, but it really is a proxy for the West. Is that New York is a good place for two kinds of people. Number one, you are young, you are super ambitious, and you want to, reach the top. You're willing to work 7 days a week. You're willing to work long hours. You're willing to do whatever it takes to become somebody, to please your boss, maybe to open a business. You're you're willing to hustle like crazy. The second type of person is really the opposite. And this is the person that's gonna hire the first type of person that I just explained. And that is somebody very rich. So if you're either willing to hustle, willing to work very hard, or you are rich and you wanna open a business and you wanna make a lot of money, New York is a great place. In all the other cases, and yes, I am oversimplifying just a little bit, not by a lot. In all the other cases, New York is gonna eat you alive. My mom lives in New York. She, she worked there for many years, and it's tough, right? Just the fact that just getting to work, if you don't live next to your work, right? If you don't live in Manhattan and paying thousands of dollars for an apartment, you're living in some of the other areas, just getting to work is gonna wear you out. So, you know, the whole aspect of getting there. New York takes a lot out of you. And, you know, when I say New York, I'm also referring to London. And I'm referring to a lot of these big Western capitalistic capitals. Hey, doggy, how are you? How are you? Як там? Як там? Як шеймаш? How are you? How are you, doggy? And a lot of people think, right, and this is very, very common, especially in Ukraine, Eastern Europe, and maybe even in Central Europe as well. I can only speak for Eastern Europe, obviously, but, you know, probably for Central Europe as well, and maybe even other regions as well, is that they're going to come to the US, they're going to immigrate, and they're going to become rich, because in the US, money grows on trees. And I can tell you, you know, these people are going to be in for a surprise, because if you can have a comfortable job in this part of the world, in Eastern Europe, Western Europe, whatever, when you come to the US, when you come to work in a place like New York, a lot of times, depending on your qualifications, you may need to start over. So a lot of things, like if you're working at a bank in, you know, I don't know, like in Romania, or you're a doctor in Romania, 95%, 90%, you will need to re-qualify yourself and start over. Look at this gorgeous neighborhood, guys. We hit a jackpot today. I couldn't have asked for a cooler neighborhood. I mean, this is definitely, I need to come back with Marine. And actually, like, looking at kind of that part over there, it has kind of this California feel as well. So when I said Latin America, that kind of makes sense, because California was, you know, Mexican. And so there's a lot of this kind of style. Oh, there's even a Tesla over there. Look at that. Ah, awesome. Look at this gorgeous neighborhood here. Wow. Let me know in the comments if this is an affluent neighborhood. It's still Stare Žolybos, but perhaps this is a rather affluent neighborhood. Look how gorgeous it is. Everything is just exactly where it needs to be. You know, the lawns are perfectly manicured. Everything is just beautiful. Now, I talked about the West. I talked about how, you know, capitalistic it is. How, yes, you can make more money, but you're gonna have to sign away a big part of your soul for that. Let's talk about the East, okay? Because the East is important. The East is anything east of Poland, really. And what is in the East? Well, the East is a little bit more complicated. Even with all these problems there are a couple of things, a couple of characteristics, a couple of qualities that I really like about Ukraine and in Eastern Europe in general. And Poland, thankfully, also has these really, really good characteristics as well. I mean, really, where am I? Am I supposed to be in a city that a lot of people don't like, a lot of people complain about? I mean, look at this. Look how beautiful it is. You know, that house is awesome. I know, you know, probably many of you are going to shock me with the prices. And this street is called Charniekiego. So just for reference, Stefana Charniekiego. But look how beautiful it is, right? Like these manicured streets, these beautiful houses. Damn, I'm still in Warsaw? What's going on? I gotta double check on the map. But this is seriously unique. Look at this. Look at these houses over there. Different colors, the facades. Absolutely beautiful. And you can smell the flowers, and the birds are singing. Look at this house here. Immaculate, absolutely immaculate. Look at this little street right here. It's so narrow that, you know, two people can barely fit. And you have the trees covering the top. Eastern Europe, economically, country like Ukraine, lots of problems, many problems. I'm confident they're going to be solved at some point in time. But there are a couple of things that I really like about Eastern Europe, which is one of the reasons, one of the major reasons really, that I decided to come back, right? After living in all over the world, really. US, Latin America, all these places, I wanted to come back, and I don't regret it. Number one is family values, okay? I really like the respect that you have for elders, you have respect for family, very, very close in Eastern Europe. These kind of family things, like respect for your parents, respect for elders, very, very big on that. In the West, you know, not as much, I would say. It's still there. It's still there. I mean, we have Mother's Day and all that, but I was joking with somebody once how in the US there's Mother's Day, but in Eastern Europe, Mother's Day is like every day. Family values, respect for elders, that is very, very important to me. And I'm very close with my family. And I think part of it, in big part is that because I was, you know, raised with that kind of mindset. So for me, that is huge. So we are back in this neighborhood now, and this looks like it's slightly different. And actually this whole area, I mean, it looks like it has that feel a little bit, not so much, but the style is very similar to what you find in New York City, kind of in beyond these residential neighborhoods, kind of in a more house kind of neighborhood, right? Because New York City, you have a lot of tall buildings, you know, these 6th floor, 10th floor tall buildings, apartments. Here you kind of have these buildings with kind of this garage that goes down. So you have these kinds of buildings also in Brooklyn. You have them in Long Island. You have them in different parts, and that's very cool. And here we have another, you know, really nice kind of houses. These one family, 2 family houses and whatnot. Very nice as well. Really, I did not expect to find this in Warsaw because it's just so gorgeous. We have an EU flag over there. Now, the second thing I really like about Eastern Europe is safety. Big capitals in Eastern Europe and even Central Europe, and like a country like Poland, and we're gonna get to Poland in just a second. So like big capitals in Ukraine, like Kiev, for instance, is much safer than any big city in Western Europe. Absolutely, it's much safer than New York. It's safer than Paris. It's safer than Madrid. It's safer than, you know, a lot of these big capitals. I would even argue it's safer than Scandinavian cities, because the only rule in Eastern Europe is that if you're not looking for trouble, if you're not looking for problems, you're gonna be okay. If you're really, really looking to get into some issues, yeah, you'll probably find it, but you'll have to look hard for it, right? You'll have to look hard for it. Whereas in New York City, you have to be aware at all times. Yes, some neighborhoods are safer than others, I can say. They're, you know, easier than others. And in my view, like, that's the 2 main things, and there are probably more. You know, I don't have a list, but those are 2 big ones that I like about Eastern Europe. Even with all the economic issues, even with all the other things, these 2 things are important, as you shall see in just a second. They're very, very important, and I hold them close to my heart. I hold them dear to my heart. So we left that cool neighborhood, and we are in this neighborhood. And look at this long, you know, just this whatever grass, this garden here. This garden, look at that building, completely immaculate. You know, guys, I gotta be honest with you. Like, I think people that have not been to Warsaw or have not been to Poland in the last 5 years, maybe 3 years, are gonna be like surprised that this is Poland. I think a lot of people have a completely different impression or a different expectation of what Poland is like, but it's just amazing. There's that Tesla again. And what I want to do is I want to maybe get some tea or coffee or something, see if what they have over there across the street, what kind of offerings they have. That was really good tea, and I actually ordered everything in Polish and even specified that I'm gonna have it for here. I'm gonna have it inside the restaurant. And 2 tips about learning foreign languages. Number 1, accept that you're gonna be speaking with an accent. There's just no way around it, and frankly, it doesn't even matter. Just accept that fact. Number 2, do not worry about grammar. You're gonna be making grammar mistakes. That's just the fact of life. Worry about grammar later. when you can communicate, when you reach that survivor level of the language, where you can communicate no problem, then work on your grammar. These two things and a couple of others help me whenever I tackle new language. And incidentally, we're back on the street where we started, or at least one of the streets where we started to kind of wander and talk about various things. And this brings us full circle to the country where we are now, to the country that has the balance, the perfect balance of all the good things. All the good things. Sure, there are things that are not perfect. There are other things. But from where I'm looking, there's a balance of the things in the West. That, you know, that capitalism, the modernity, the will to make money. And even I would argue somewhat that this drive here in Poland, from what I talked to, from what I spoke to that person, that man with whom I had lunch today, with what I'm seeing on the ground, with what I'm seeing on YouTube, the capitalism drive here is, you know, it's probably more than other neighboring countries, right? I would argue, because Poland is growing, it's progressing at a faster rate than some of the other countries as well. You know, so there's that capitalism aspect about making money. Google is here, WeWork is here, a bunch of big American accounting firms are here. There's all kinds of, they're going to the main business district here, you know, looking at those buildings, looking at the bustle and hustle. And many times, I've said this countless times, how much this city reminds me of New York. And this is probably the only capital city in Europe where I've been that reminds me of New York. It's there, right? There's that hustle, there's the drive, which is very, very important for prosperity, economic growth, wealth. And, you know, what he told me that, you know, in the past 5 years, Warsaw has just grew leaps and bounds, new developments, new things, lots of interesting things are happening. What he told me is crazy, right? It's really, really hard to imagine, but I believe him. Because if what my experience has shown that to be is true, I believe him, and I see it, I feel it. Being on the ground, I feel it. And no, you don't have to work so hard like you would in New York. You don't have to sell your soul. You don't have to stop seeing your family, live in the cubicle, sleep under your desk to have a meaningful life. Here, I believe that the balance, the quality of life is going to be rather, it's going to be balanced. It's going to be a good quality of life, and you can make a decent living from that regard. And then there's the other aspect that I really like about Eastern Europe. First is the family values. And what I've seen here, family values are huge. I've seen countless times where, elderly ladies are being helped to get on the bus. This is a country where family values are very, very strong. The family is very, very strong. It's important, right? It's important. And unfortunately, with lots of other societies, lots of other countries, I don't want to single out the West, but, my experience has shown that capitalism has taken over at the expense of some of the family values. And here in Poland, safety is, I would say, like, Warsaw is probably, it's a lot safer in my view, and kind of from what I've read and what I've seen and what I kind of, research I did and kind of my general knowledge, it's going to be a lot safer than the Western capitals. It's going to be safer than London. It's going to be safer than Paris. It's going to be safer than the West. And as a result of everything that I talked about, Poland is perfectly positioned to have the best balance of the things that are great in the West, the things that we really care about. Maybe not all the things, right? It cannot have all the things, but the things that matter, at least to me, and probably matter to you as well. And also, being in Central Europe instead of Western Europe, it has values that are important to me from Eastern Europe, right? Things that I care about, things that are responsible for me going back to Eastern Europe. and leaving the West in a way, and probably things that you care about too as well. And of course, listen, I'm not gonna make any illusions. No place is perfect. There are problems everywhere, and you know, every country has its pros and cons. Every place, you know, has its issues, and I don't wanna, you know, I don't wanna make it seem like I am, you know, I don't like the West or I don't like New York. I love New York. I absolutely love New York. I love the West. It has its place. Everything has its place. But right now, kind of where I am, where I've been, the people I've spoken with, the things that I've seen, heard, smelled, touched, this country is perfectly positioned to give me exactly, you know, to give me the perfect balance of exactly what I'm looking for. And judging by the people that have that are here, the people that I've spoken to, the people that lived out in the West, they would agree with that. They would agree with my assessment. And looks like this bus is going to Villanov. Cool neighborhood that we explored in one of the previous videos. And right now, I gotta grab a tram back to Ochota, go back home, maybe stop by the world's famous Biedronka in Ochota, grab a couple of things. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I really hope you enjoyed this little tour of you know, this random neighborhood that I just discovered with you guys. And let me know in the comments below what you think. Let me know if you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one.